Without further ado, hey guys, I'm Hud. I'm the CIO of San Francisco MLS. We are recording this, and if you have questions, use the Q&A section at the bottom. Just drop in some questions there if you have any. And uh, and Jay's already dropped one in. Hey Jay, we are good. We're working hard. And just dropping some questions there. Today we're got our partners from PropStream. We haven't had them on for a bit, and Jessica and Eddie and I were just talking about, hey, let's change that. Let's get these guys out here a couple of times a year to kind of talk about what they're doing. It's heavy duty data analytics for those of you that are out there doing farming, looking for new clients, trying to find opportunities. And I could talk about it, but I'm not going to because I'm not the expert in this. I'm going to pass it over to our friends, Jessica and Eddie. Jessica, why don't you kick us off and tell us what we're going to learn about today?
Yeah, awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us. My name's Jess with PropStream. I'm on the industry relations side, so I work with the associations and MLSs to kind of partner up. And we're super excited that you guys took the time to be here with us today. Won't do too much introductions, but I'm going to kick it off to Eddie, who's our training specialist and content specialist over here at PropStream. And bonus, he's also a broker, so he has a ton of industry knowledge, a ton of just history with real estate. So you guys are going to get some really great tips and tricks and just an overall of our product today. And we really hope that you do take advantage of our exclusive partner link that we have with San Francisco and the 7-day free trial with PropStream. So Eddie, I'll let you kick it off.
Well, thank you. Thanks, Jessica, and thank you, HUD. Appreciate being here with all of you today. Hopefully, I have a good group on the call today. I'm really excited. This is really just in my wheelhouse. This is what I just enjoy genuinely doing, which is reaching out to real estate agents and helping them build their business. And why would I be so excited? Because I did it for over 20 years. I did it as a real estate sales agent, then a broker. I'm a broker in Florida. I'm a broker in Illinois as well, and team leader, consultant, you name it. I've had the pleasure and privilege to wear all the different hats. So, and we all know, being, since I've been here so long in this industry, I know that we have these ebbs and flows in the market. So, understanding what the right strategy at the right time to apply to your business to make it successful is paramount. And so that's really what I want to talk to all of you about today. And it's obviously with PropStream in mind. And I joined PropStream because I saw it as a tool that was very useful and helpful for all of you here on the call today to not only understand how to grow your business, but really take control of your business. And I think that's in a market where we're a little bit quieter, a little bit slower, where the leads aren't falling. You'll hear me say some things that they're very well intentioned, but we used to be very much in a kind of a baby bird market, right? Where we were expecting the broker or some lead source to drop leads into our mouth so that we can go out and sell something, right? And so for me, as a trainer, as a broker, as a mentor, I was always trying to get people to be empowered, right? So for you to take control of your business, and PropStream is exactly that kind of tool where you are not waiting for something to happen, you're not waiting for a lead to come, and you're really just taking control of the future of your business for yourself, and let's be quite honest, for your family as well, and all the goals that you have for yourself in this industry. And it's a fantastic industry. It has served me and my family incredibly well. I'm very grateful and very blessed to be in this position. And that can be something for you if that's not something you currently have. And I'm going to guess that if you're on the call, it's because you really do want to get empowered. You really want to understand, how do I get there? And not only from a very practical perspective, which we're going to detail today, but also just from the mindset, like, how am I taking control of what I need to do to get to those goals? And undoubtedly, as I was training agents across the country, and it just came back from Miami, and next week I'll be in Orlando, but the message and the conversations are very similar, right? How do we get there? And a lot of it has to be around discipline, finding a tool that resonates with you. And although there's people on this call, not everyone's going to be ready or understand it or whatever, and that's perfectly fine. I'm looking to reach the people that understand that it's time, that I have to come up with a solution, and we got to keep going. And so that's what I would want to say for my introduction. But I welcome you all here, and let's get right into it. And I'll start with a little bit of kind of an intro. Yes, we've all been partners now for, I believe, over a year now. I think it was February of last year when we all decided to hug it out and do this together. And so let's just kind of revisit, and I'll bring up my screen if that's all right. And if you don't mind, if you want to just pop in the Q&A, yes, we can hear you. Yes, this is all clear. Just so from a technical perspective, everyone's hearing me just fine. And again, welcome to all of you who are on. I really appreciate it. And I will, speaking of Q&A, I will leave time at the end for answering your questions. So, you know, or HUD, certainly you might even take some of these, and Jessica as well. We'll see how it goes. Fantastic. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Excellent. So here we go. Let us share my screen. Let me move this one out of the way. Okay. So y'all should be seeing my screen now. And what you're seeing on my browser window is the PropStream website. And again, for those of you who are brand new or still, you know, maybe heard about it before, but weren't exactly sure. And again, it's available to you by way of this fantastic partnership that we all have. You have access to PropStream. So PropStream is essentially a real estate data company, and we are the leading company to provide you with real estate data for all properties throughout the United States, and that includes residential, commercial, and vacant land. And that combination of data, excuse me, is from not only the MLS data that's come from the MLSs, but it's also through public records as well. So, and those are multi-sourced, right? So it's not just one source of data on each one. It's a multi-source. And one of the questions we always get is how often is it refreshed? Well, it's refreshed multiple times a day. So it's important to understand that you're getting all the data across the United States, which is obviously more encompassing, all-encompassing than just our local regional data, which empowers you to research and potentially do deals with real estate partners outside of your market and outside of your state. So that's another really important thing, right? To be able to not just wait to maybe ask somebody in another state for access to certain information because you don't have access to it. You would in PropStream. And so now from a more granular, more tactical perspective, Eddie, why do I care about 160 plus million properties across the country? Well, it's because what we're doing is we're using that data to find opportunities. And the way we're finding opportunities, and this is basically the partnering of all this data, how do we partner that data with a solution, with a result, right? And that's by way of the filters. So in PropStream, we have, and you have access to over 165 filters. So that is where the magic lies. And I pause here because it genuinely is magic. What I would encourage you all to do, and I know that there's three things we want to talk about today, is identify, research, and market, right? Those are kind of the talking points for today. Identifying who we're going to talk to, researching information on them, and actively marketing to them. And all three of those things live inside of PropStream. But before we even start clicking away, and before I even leave this screen, as a matter of fact, you saw this, pretty simple, understood, right? So I'm just going to stop the sharing, just get back on the screen here. Before you even start clicking away at anything on the platform, you log in, etc. If you haven't done anything inside of PropStream, and really, I would say, again, this is me putting my mentor hat on from somebody who's been doing it for a long time. Step number one is identifying who you're trying to reach out to. Who is it you're trying to serve, right? What price point, what market, what type of product, what type of lifestyle? Is it a first-time home buyer? Is it someone unfortunately going through divorce or probate? You know, even negative situations like that. Who are you interested in serving? If you're brand new and really don't have that kind of avatar already nailed down, or that target audience, if you will, that you have nailed down, you may already have a strong background in real estate and done several transactions, many transactions, tens, hundreds of transactions. And I would say that by now you probably could determine where you are finding yourself serving the public most. Back to the idea of, you know, who is it you're serving? What is their situation? What's the price point, et cetera, right? And so that's where I would encourage you to start first, is identify, and actually, and you know, you see the gray hair here, right? So I still do this. I still grab this and a pen and I still write things down. So I would encourage you to do that and come up with 2 or 3 scenarios. Like, for instance, I'll give you a perfect example. Here in South Florida, where I live, one of the ways that we built our brokerage was by way of reaching out to senior homeowners homeowners that were already living here, that likely built their later years, raised their family, and bought the big house or had the big house. And now, of course, everyone's grown and out of the house, and the proverbial husband and wife, if you will, just as an example, are sitting across the table and grabbing coffee and saying, honey, do we still need this house? Is this house too much house for us now? That was a conversation that was very typical, very common, and very successful for us as a real estate team, right? And that's just one of many examples, but that's where I would encourage you with the understanding who it is you're trying to serve, because that's what you like, that's what you understand. That maybe is the background that you have before you got into real estate, right? You have certain relationships, right? So try to paint that picture in your mind's eye as to who they are and what situation they may be in. Because for my example, that was very successful for us. I knew that at some point they were going to want to downsize. So I would find out who they were. I would start to market to them, and I would send them messages in the right cadence through the right channels, meaning was I texting them? Was I emailing them? Was I on social media? Was I all of these things? Was I calling them? Understanding what channels to reach them at and doing that on a regular basis with contextual information. This is one of the things I train on a lot. And for those of you, I'll drop this little hint, but if you look us PropStream and then lunch and listings, and if I can pull up a link, I'll probably share it here. Lunch and listings is what I host on Wednesdays, every Wednesday live, and it's real estate agent specific. So understanding who that avatar is incredibly important. And then understanding the messaging behind it is very, very important. So enough about that. Let's dive back into the platform. Are there any questions? I'll pause here for a moment. Are there any questions about what I just said? Is that clear? Fantastic. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, nothing yet.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you, Hud. Appreciate that. So let us continue here. So now that we've set the stage as to where, the fact that we have to identify who it is we're trying to reach. So now I'm staring at my paper. I've come up with my 2 or 3 ideas. Let me run you through one. Like I just mentioned here, this Florida example, if you don't mind. And again, this is going to be particular to your situation and who you're wanting to dial into and find that information. But again, our conversation is about identifying. So I've kind of given you a sample criteria or a sample target avatar, if you will. Actually, I'll refresh this here just to make sure, just so that you see it. So when you first log in, just so you can see the process from the start, this is what the screen that you'll see when you first log into PropStream. And it's going to have our updates, of course, so you know what's going on. All right, I'll close this out. It also has our webinar schedule for all our replays and all our live events that we host. And for those of you who still haven't been into PropStream, shame on you. No, but this is what you'll see. This is the interface you see. And again, you have access to properties throughout the United States. And it's a very Google-esque map where I'm sure most of you are familiar, sliding around, moving in, zooming out, right? So I gave just an example. I'll just pop into a town here that maybe some of you may be familiar with here in Florida. And again, this could be anywhere. As a matter of fact, let's change it up. Hud, give me a zip code value, please.
I was going to say, let's get it local. Let's do 94124.
94124. Let's get it
And
local.
as you're bringing that up, I just want to let everybody know
Yeah.
that, I dropped a couple of URLs in the chat, but of course, everything that we offer at SFAR is available via the dashboard, sfarmls.com. So that's exactly what you're going to find. You'll find PropStream there. I also dropped a link there. Yeah, this is, frankly, this is my neighborhood. I live in the Bayview Heights, and this is a good neighborhood, I think, for this particular example. So yeah, there you go.
Okay, so you're thinking the same kind of example of the older couple, larger house situation?
Oh no, not necessarily. This is more of you might find more properties that are more pre-foreclosure, or perhaps that had multi-generations that are there that are thinking of selling. But yeah, in terms of the demographic in San Francisco is a little bit different. We have a lot of turnover of folks that are coming in. The tech industry is hot, but without me seeding it too much, let's just see what kind of data you get here. Who knows? I haven't actually looked at this. So
Yeah, for sure. So, okay, so all we've done so far, and thank you for the zip code. All we've done so far is we zoomed in on the zip code, and you see here on the right, there's 9,755 properties that correspond to that zip code. And then on the map, you'll see a total of 250, because that's basically our limit that will show. They're not all, of course, all these little pins in the middle are not all the 9,755. It's not until you zoom in and start selecting ones that they'll come up accordingly. But the map is 250 total. And so what you're seeing there is all those little pins have a number corresponding to the pin. And you see this one at the top, it's just kind of clear to see because it's at the top, $1.5 million. Now, those dollar amounts are either an actual list price because it's on the market, or like this one right here on the right, 773,400. That's an actual list price because the property's on the market. And if it doesn't say list price, it'll say estimated value, EST value. And that just means it's not on the market. And so we're using our valuation model to determine a potential value for that property, but it's not on the market, okay? So at the very top here, you're also seeing kind of some quick links that correspond to these numbers, meaning, the number that corresponds to cash buyers, liens, vacant properties in this particular group. But let's go into, and right here we can toggle on market and off market. And just for our example, of course, we're going to want to toggle off market, right? Because we're looking for listings. Let's just stay in that kind of direction. So the minute I clicked off market, this number came down a little bit, which is to be expected because most of them are going to be off market. But let's dive into the more kind of the specific filtering that I mentioned earlier, which is where really the power of PropStream is. So, because all we've done essentially is off market and we've done zip code. So this is where you're going to really glance back down to your paper, if you will, that you wrote down your 2 or 3, lead list ideas or avatar ideas rather, and you're going to start with your first one. And I know you mentioned pre-foreclosure and foreclosure. I'm going to mention one here quickly as well, I believe. Let me just make sure. Yeah, here it is. Sorry for scrolling so quickly, but there's one here I'll mention, and I'll stop at it again here in a moment. But we have an AI feature, which also is providing our foreclosure factor. So foreclosure factor is just before even pre-foreclosure, before foreclosure, because we know both pre-foreclosure and foreclosure, legal notices go out, right? Notices go out. So at that point, quote unquote, everyone knows that there's something going on with that property. But the AI in this case, with PropStream intelligence, is telling us the propensity or a likelihood. So that's even before pre-foreclosure, which could be a very powerful tool for all of you if you were trying to identify pre-foreclosed properties, okay? Because it's even one step before. But if we start at the top here, this again is where you're really going to want to become proficient based on who you're searching for. On the left, you'll see the list of the different sections that we're going to go into. And as I scroll on the right, you'll see that the left scrolls down with me, okay? So lead lists, let's create a lead list. So we could use one of these kind of predefined lead lists for a quick, easy search, right? And let's just say we want to do properties with liens on them. So we could just immediately click on this liens one, and we saw that our list went down to 611 properties here. It's actually 619, but because there's probably 8 of those that are on the market, but the actual number here is 611. So as I click these filters, this number up here will change, which used to be over 9,000 if you recall, okay? So let's take a quick peek at what that did. So now you see the list here is now 611. Just move this window out of the way, excuse me. Okay. And this is the resulting list that have liens on the property. So let's click on one, just so you can see what the details are of a particular property and why this was flagged to having liens, because we'll get to that lien section. So this is the property card. In the property card, you're going to expect to see, we're all real estate professionals here. We know this type of information exists, all the property characteristics, value, estimated value of the property, mortgage and debt information, opportunity for in case, we're looking for a wholesale purchase. It's going to give an estimate. The PropStream intelligence band, is that that I mentioned earlier. It's not only doing the foreclosure factor, which in this case it didn't generate one for this particular property, but it also generates a condition report. So if you were looking for properties that were in good condition, all the way to, you know, everything actually from luxury all the way down to poor condition, disrepair, you could search by that with the PropStream intelligence. And what it's doing is it's actually looking, quote unquote, looking at the photos of the properties. So it's another filtering mechanism that you could all use. Now, if we scroll down here, we get into the property details, lien details. Now, this lien details is not always here. It exists because there's some lien information on this property. And we know that because we selected that filter. Now, this is going to just give us all the property details, again, as you all would be expecting. None of this is likely foreign to all of you, but it's all the details around the property. If we click on lien details, we'll get the information on those liens. So on this particular property, because we clicked on liens, this one has an abstract of support judgment. This one, so this is child support. Here's another one. So is this necessarily an indicator that they're going to sell the house? No. But does it show some kind of a stressful moment? Yes. Which may necessitate them selling the house? Yes, potentially. But more importantly, this is where you get very good about crafting your message, right? And you want to be able to do it in a way where, you know, I know one of the reactions we always get is like, do people know that we have this much information? And the answer is no. The general public doesn't know that this is public information. I mean, they know, but they don't really know until you know, mention it and that you know something about them that they thought was a little more private. So you have to be careful about how you word your approaches. And that's my whole point in bringing that up, right? But understanding that all we did was click on one situation. And when you start to then combine this with several filtering mechanisms, then you get a really sharp picture as to the likelihood of them needing your help. And that is the point of PropStream. So that then you can start your marketing efforts, which I'll show you here in a moment, so that you can start to reach out to them because you know that there might be some need on their part to sell their home. And again, this is just one of many. Again, I'll quickly go through some of the details that also live inside the property card. MLS details, of course, from when it was last listed, currently off market. It was listed back in August. Comps and nearby listings. I know all of you probably through your MLS have access to being able to comp a property and do that analysis, but you can here as well. It's just a matter of which platform you prefer to use, which is, I believe, you know, more effective for you. You have the choice of using public records only, MLS only, or combining them both, which usually is the better way to go, right? So you have a more robust data set to compare against. This is a little more detail on the PropStream intelligence in terms of what it's scoring this property and why. Demographics is just that. You're all familiar with that. You know, what's going on in the neighborhood, percentage of owners versus renters, types of housing, income brackets, etc. But also very important information. Tax information right from the tax rolls, as you would expect, all their taxed real estate taxes over the years. Linked properties is really interesting. I really like this one also for investment scenarios, because you're able to understand from this property how many other properties this owner owns, right? Which could lead to another opportunity for you to do a deal. Like the one I see it used most is when, you know, an investor that has a property in their back pocket, so to speak, like a wholesaler that knows about a property that is they're thinking about selling it, but they haven't yet. It's not openly on the market. To be able to find owners that have similar properties in the area, so you can tell that, oh, this buyer, or this owner rather, owns a lot of 3 bedrooms, 2 baths in this particular area, and that's the kind of property I have. So why don't I reach out to them and say, hey, would you want another one for your portfolio? So just kind of very interesting way to you know, research and leverage the data. Mortgage and transaction history is just that, of course. And then documents and reports. And you can buy documents instead of going to the courthouse, you can buy them right here through PropStream. Okay, move that out of the way. So we have this list of 611 properties. Let's go back into the filters just so we can filter this down a little bit more. Okay, now we're going to scroll down. Yes, we know this property has liens. And we're going to say, let's activate the residential. So we only want single family homes. Let's just, for conversation's sake, right? For example's sake. And let's say we want to stick with single family. And now we're down to 475 from the 611. So this is what we refer to as filter stacking, right? You're starting to, back to my last example, you're back to shaping what this particular owner looks like in their situation, what their situation looks like. That's a better way of kind of framing that. And so you get a better picture as to how to craft your outreach, what to say, and what your angle is and how you're going to solve their problem or why you're best suited. And what I love about this strategy too is not only are we doing all this work to find opportunities for ourselves, for listing opportunities, what I also like is that no one else is reaching out to them because you're being proactive. You're doing the work to find opportunities. And we all know the moment something becomes more public, like a pre-foreclosure or foreclosure, for example, what happens? That person's getting a phone call every 10 minutes. And the minute the phone rings, they're already rolling their eyes. So this is also, from a very practical perspective, is alleviating that as well. So let's continue on. Just so you can, I'm just going to scroll through these just so you can see some of the filtering in here. And more importantly, for maybe some of you to have this kind of light bulb moment, it's like, oh, I didn't realize I could search for that. And then start to think about how you can create your own lists. Association, pool, garage, basement, attic. This is the PropStream intelligence filter, right? So we can go everything from disrepair, you see it right here, all the way to luxury, okay? You can also apply this PropStream intelligence filter. Again, this is what's looking, quote unquote, looking at the photos on the bathroom, on the kitchen only, interior condition, exterior condition, and there's that foreclosure factor that I mentioned. A very low foreclosure factor up to a very high likelihood, okay? And again, that's the AI looking at all the data it has on those properties and in the market to determine the likelihood. So I think, HUD, you said that the zip code specifically was one that carried a lot of pre-foreclosure and foreclosure activity. So it's probably going to jive when you apply this filter right here. But you know that because you're a local professional. But if you weren't that intimately familiar, this would be a fantastic filter to activate. MLS, we already marked off market, remember in that previous search. But you could choose other statuses of the market and dates, corresponding dates to that. This is pre-foreclosure and bank owned. So this is the real pre-foreclosure and bank owned, right? When there's recording dates, when those notices go out. You can also select by auction. So again, you could be, filtering even more of a situation where there's more of a stressful or timely situation potentially. Owner information. Is it owner occupied? Do I care? Maybe I do care, right? Let's just say they're already out of the house. So it's no longer, so it's vacant. Say it's vacant. Well, that actually took me down to 0. So we won't do that one, but you could. And then I bring that down, this list to a smaller, more refined list. In this case, it brought me down to 0, which isn't going to help me. But I like to typically tune these lists down to a manageable number. What's manageable, in my opinion, under 200 or 300. Manageable in the sense that you've kind of refined it to a really good talking point. You're very clear as to who this person is, and you're also very clear as to how you can solve their problem or how you can be helpful. Years of ownership. How do you think you mentioned that there's a lot of older owners, or not necessarily older in age, but it's been in the family for a while. Is that correct? I'll go with 25 years. So I clicked just for older ownership. I went 25 years and up. So that's probably likely going to coincide with high equity as well, right? So that they're going to have a lot of equity. Not necessarily all of them, but most. Ownership type, I'll go individual, absentee location, owner location. I'll just leave that alone, but I just want you to see some of these. Last sale price, tax exempt, lien and bankruptcy, and divorce. There are some agents across this country that I know personally that are absolute animals on these particular situations. Very precise, very laser focused on divorce and on bankruptcy. They're very well suited as to how to have those conversations, how to be a problem solver in those markets. So that's available to you here as well. Tax delinquency is here as well. Again, other signs of stress. that could be applied. Value and equity, how much value and equity they have in the property, mortgage information, kind of mortgage. Maybe you can look for assumable mortgages under the VA. Maybe you have a client that's looking for something that they could assume. Of course, they still have to qualify, of course. But again, this is all the data that's available to you and how a couple of ways that you could potentially leverage it. Interest rates, cash buyer, which I mentioned earlier, mention that example in terms of the linked properties. Free and clear, let's just go free and clear. Oh, it's only 5. Well, I'll leave it alone because it was the 59 is a nice manageable list anyway. All right. Thank you for sticking through me. But you see how we started with over 9,000 properties. And by way of looking at my paper, deciding who it is I'm going to reach out to, who I've served before, where my specialty lies in this particular market, I've refined this list down to 59 opportunities, right? So what do we do with this? Well, we're going to create a list. And we're going to save this list. And we're going to call it whatever we want, but in this case, I'll just go with the zip code 94124. If I can type. San Fran. And we'll hit save. So now I've got a very specific list of people that I'm interested in talking about, and I know what their situation is. And now I'm going to be ready to reach out to them. But how do we reach out to them? We don't have their contact information. All we have is the property information. So where did that list go? It's right here. It's in my marketing list because I just created the list. And in my properties, which is right up here at the top left, this is where they all went. This is where I have previous lists, etc. Right? And so it's right here. Here are my 59. And at the very top, you have some more filtering that it's going to do for you. And remember how I mentioned because they've owned it for 25 years, they likely have a lot of equity? Yeah, 49 out of the 59 have a lot of equity. So it's just another way of, if I wanted to say, I only want high equity owners, I could just refine this list of 59 by clicking on 49. Or maybe I wanted the opposite for some reason. I wanted low equity or negative equity. Pre-foreclosure, there's one in there. Has liens? Well, all of them do, of course, because remember, that's the first box that we checked. We wanted them to have liens. 5 of them are free and clear. So what do we do with this list now? Well, now we know who we're talking to. We know what their situation is. So let's go ahead and add these two. And again, and here, I'll just go real quick. And again, we go through this in much greater detail in our daily webinars, Monday through Friday at PropStream. Or again, join me on the Wednesday. That's kind of the little unicorn that sticks out. Wednesday, luncheon listings, 12 p.m. Your time, 12 p.m. your time. So right at lunchtime on Wednesdays, we go over it in a very real estate agent specific way. And we can go in, you can interrupt me, you can ask me all kinds of questions, and we'll get a little bit more specific. But I want you to see just a few features. Here you can import more data to this list. You can, of course, export this list out to something else. If you needed to use it in a different platform for different purposes, you could do that. You could add these to a favorites list. You can create segmented lists off of this, but let's just keep it simple for today. And we're going to go into a new campaign. Before I go into a new campaign, I just want to click on one other thing here quickly. One of the latest features we have is called List Automator. And now what List Automator does is, because you saw me just create a list, and the list is a total of 59 properties. What we've done so far is we've created a static list. It's today. We've done it today on the 27th of October. But what List Automator lets us do is it basically what I affectionately call is babysitting the list. So what List Automator is going to do is, as tomorrow and the next day and the next week and the next month progress, it's going to keep an eye out for more properties that meet this criteria. All those boxes that we checked, it's going to meet if it meets the criteria, it's going to ask you if you want to add it to this list. You can do several different things, but for our purposes, let's just say today, it'll add it to the list. If the reverse happens, one of these properties of this 59, tomorrow, 1 or 2 don't meet the criteria for whatever reason, they fall out, they literally drop off the list. So at any moment when you log back in and you're looking at this list that we just created, you're able to see in real time what is the most precise list of properties for the criteria we just created. Okay, I think we just had a little question pop in. Oh yeah, pro tip, you can also import and export these contacts lists. So if you're looking to identify and research here that then market with broker. Yeah, absolutely. Great point, Jess. Yeah, you're not locked in. I love that point because you're not locked into, oh, the information just lives here. You can take it out, you can bring some information in, right? I love that flexibility because let's be honest, we're using all kinds of different platforms. Now, I like to be able to encourage you all to kind of refine that list of platforms because we have entirely too many widgets out there. And then when we're talking about marketing widgets and marketing tactics and all that, that gets to be a lot. But if we can refine it, that's great. So what are we doing now? At this point, we can do several things. We've created our list, so we identified who we're talking to. We've created the list, so we've actually researched the information, and now we have it in front of us. It's a list, a real list of 59 people, 59 properties. Now, how do we market to them? Well, inside of PropStream, you're able to skip trace. What skip tracing means, if you're not familiar, is the ability to pull contact information, which is email addresses and phone numbers. Okay. And the phone numbers, and I'll show you here in a moment, are we're able to segment out the ones that are on the do not call list, right? So that you have accurate information about the contact information. And then, of course, you have the email addresses. And then once you have that information, you can, of course, pick up the phone. You could take advantage of our batch dialer promotion that we have. If you don't know, we recently acquired Batch Leads and Batch Dialer, and that is giving you the ability to now run this list through Batch Dialer and have an automatic dialer start to make your calls so that you can be a lot more efficient with your phone calls. Okay. And I'll share that, or maybe Jess, if you can pull that up so I don't forget, because we're talking about it now. If not, I'll bring it up at the end, no problem. But we do have a great promotion for Halloween with regard to Batch Dialer so that you can start using that as well. Okay. All right, great. So let us get on. So what are we going to do with this list? That's where I left off. We can start a postcard campaign. And the reason why this is separated out from the skip tracing is because you don't need skip tracing to launch a postcard campaign, right? And so inside of PropStream, and again, I wish I had more time to go into more detail, but you'll all get the gist of what we're doing here. Let me bring up. Let me see, where's the one? Yeah, here's one. And there's another one. Okay, fine. So from here is where you can craft new postcards. And this is an example of a postcard, different campaign, obviously different messaging, different target, but you'll get the idea. So now we can launch postcards right from PropStream from that list we just created. So all 59 of those people will get a postcard. And you can come in here and you can design the postcard how you want. And change out the photos, of course, change out the text, change out the messaging to, again, be more relevant to their situation, right? You don't want to be too generic because it just doesn't land, especially in a world where we're always bombarded with so much content, both offline and on. We want to hit that target as closely as possible. And so, of course, you can then edit this and send these postcards on their way. This next part is what does necessitate the skip tracing. And again, I'll show you the skip tracing here in a moment because I do want you to see it kind of in action. But what we're looking at here on this page right now, you see WPB is West Palm Beach, senior downsize. And the list was probably 49 people, which is probably the number is 49 there. But anyway, I labeled this campaign, which you can create. So we can create a campaign. And I'll show you in a moment. We can create a campaign for this list of 59. Again, why it's so important to understand who you're talking to. Because here, let me go back to the one, excuse me. Maybe do I have this one? Let me see if I've got the one I want to show you. Yeah, okay. So each campaign, this campaign of 59, you could create a landing page. This is the landing page. So every single marketing campaign, we just did one of 59. Tomorrow you're going to create another one, so on and so forth. Now, I would say become masterful, only create 2 or 3, launch those, manage those, get those to work before you start adding more. But every single one of those lists has a landing page. You can create a landing page. So just like we just customized those postcards, you can customize this landing page. And the customization consists of being able to change this photo, which is something neighborhood contextual or situational contextual. You can change this photo of this house. You can put your logo in the top left corner. You can then change the text here, both the heading and the subheading. And then this stays the way it is, this contact form. Why do we create this? Well, because then you can, I'm sorry, excuse me, let me go back to that. You can use this URL at the very top. You see it here. I named that time to downsize. You will create a unique URL for each one of these campaigns. And now you've got a landing page for all of your people that you're going to market to land on. Why would you want them to land on this page? Well, because you want them to read about you, see about you, and then be able to fill out the form and reach back out to you, because this email is going to come back to you, right? And you're going to know from what campaign it was from. Now, where could you use this? I would use this URL on my social media too, in part of a message. I would use this as a QR code and add it as a photo on my postcard. So when they receive the postcard, they scan the QR code, and on their phone comes up this landing page. And they're able to read it, fill out the information, and the message comes back to you. So it's very, very powerful. It's kind of an ecosystem to your marketing, because it's all carrying the specific message that you want them to have about the contextual nature of their situation. And then, of course, we can send emails as well. So let me show you where that is. I must have deleted the one that I had in here. I apologize. I had one in here. I'll bring up, let's see. Here it is. Here's another example. Again, this is the email composer. You could change out the photos, you would change out the messaging, the subheadings, etc. And then you can save this and send this out as an email to that group of 59. So you're able to craft the postcards and send them. You're able to craft the emails and send them. And both of those can carry the link or QR code to go back to the landing page so they can read more about you, submit the information, and it comes back to you. That is the entire lead capture ecosystem that's built in here inside of PropStream. Now, how do you find this information? Let's go back to our list of 59 right here. So what you would do is you would run a skip trace. This was that other function that I was waiting to show you. So we were here in the postcard campaign. Now we're going to go into skip tracing. This is where you're able to skip trace the information. Now, depending on the plan that you're on, if you're on Essentials, you're going to pay a la carte 12 cents per skip trace. If you have Pro, which is the middle tier, this is included along with your list automator, which I mentioned earlier. Okay, so the list automators was quote unquote babysitting your lists. Those two come together in this middle section. So mine, of course, is 0 because I'm here with PropStream. So we're going to run this list. We're going to place the order. It's going to warn me about the do not call registry. I'm going to say I accept. It's going to say thank you for placing the order. And by the time I go off and get a coffee or open my mail and come back, the list is going to be done. For the purposes of time, I will show you where that information goes. It's going to drop. We started on our search today here. We then made a list and it showed up here in my properties. And then for my properties, we just, we skip traced them. So now they're going to land in contacts. Okay. That's kind of the order. So I'll just show you a list. Here's one that just kind of popped up. But here's a smaller one just for context. This is what your list is going to look like. Again, this is a different list. This only had 4, but you get the idea. So now it returns all the information for this particular owner, which has the phone numbers and properly listed out which ones are on the do not call list. And then, of course, all the emails it could find. Now, there's nothing wrong with you picking up the phone, especially if your list is small and manageable and you just wanted to pick up the phone. You could pick up the phone right now and call. In this particular case, Bradley. Hi, Bradley, from so-and-so Realty. And then you go into your conversation based on the situation. And that's really where the differentiator is between having real success with this and, these are the sales skills that we all have to have outside of PropStream, right? That we all have to be very proficient at. But this is the way to sharpen them. It's by having all these conversations. And so this is your opportunity to generate conversations outside of waiting for someone to give you a lead or saying the market is slow and there's nothing I can do about it. No, this is you proactively generating the lists, creating the context, finding the properties that meet that context, finding their contact information, and having multiple ways inside of PropStream to reach out to them and start a conversation. That's you being empowered, and that's you taking control of your business. So let me close this. That makes sense. Is there any questions? There might be one question in here. Oh, Jess, you're jumping in. Thank you for providing the link to the Batch Dialer promo. Well, we're right there at about 10 minutes before the hour. If anyone has any questions, HUD, did you have any questions for me?
Well, I was able to be here for most of it, fix the alarm downstairs and come back. So I had a pretty good 49 minutes here. No, I think what was great about this session, Eddie, is you're coming at this as a practitioner, showing our members, what it's like to really do some intense farming and uncover some opportunities, even here in San Francisco, right? We are 7x7. Inventory is pretty low. It's been historically low for the last few years. It seems to be very difficult for people to, that whole trading up is not happening as much as it used to. We are fortunate in that we have a lot of people moving here for technology purposes and whatnot, but there still are a lot of opportunities as you showcased today. Just a couple reminders, just like with some of our other applications, we are here to introduce you to these technologies, but they are sort of a la carte. So as Eddie and Jessica has mentioned, you can kick the tires a little bit. There is no long-term commitment. If you find that you want to, you're thinking of, you want to do some farming and some additional opportunities, I suggest you take advantage of some of these other webinars that are available and maybe do this for a month or two. It's not like you have to do it for the entire year, but if you're looking for some more opportunities, PropStream is a great company to spend some time with. And so thank you guys. I don't see any additional questions, but let's make sure that we, there's one in the Q&A. Oh yeah. We will definitely this presentation is being recorded and it will be available, and take note of this. We have a YouTube channel. You may not be aware. I'm going to drop it in the chat as well. It is our SFAR social. And that is, we have at this point, hundreds of videos on our YouTube channel. It really started to take off, no surprise, during the pandemic. But what we have is a ton of great videos on all of our, not only a lot of the events that we have, but a lot of the training sessions we have. I'm just dropping this in the chat for y'all to check out. Subscribe, hit that subscribe button, because then you'll be updated on anything new that we've done. This includes not only our vendor partner spotlights, but some of our other seminars on our DBI session, Department of Building session we did a couple weeks ago. So it's really worth being able to come back and revisit those videos. And Jessica, Eddie, we'll have you guys back sometime in Q1, I think, to kind of keep the conversation going. Have a great Halloween and a great holiday season. And thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.